You know, you can think about doing a video, you can plan out doing a video, but unless you actually hit record, you're never going to do that video. And I've been sitting here stitching this morning for a couple hours, thinking about things that I wanted to say and realizing if I keep putting it off, I'm never going to do it. So here is another Susan ramble about what's going on right now and where I am and how I feel like I'm sort of floating in this transitional stage. And by transitional, I mean I'm moving away from trying to create lots and lots of things that I can sell, you know, for low price points and make a whole bunch of them. And just my brain is always thinking about stuff to go in the shop and what can I sell and what's the next quick thing I can do. And that's not, well, it hasn't been working for me because stuff isn't necessarily flying off the shelves. And that's okay. That's okay. That's not a beg to go check out the shop. I've got a whole bunch of stuff I'm destashing because I can finally admit to myself, maybe the rest of you figured this out already, I'm not doing stuff with paper anymore. There may come a time where I do some small things, but I'm really not working with paper. And that's okay too, because I have discovered the love of my life is fiber. I love working with fiber, and you know how much I love, or if you've seen any of my videos, how much I love creating my wildscapes. And so making the decision to work strictly with fiber means, okay, I can take a look around the studio and see what takes up prime real estate. And on this side of the room, of course, it is all my fibers. On the other side of the room, I have my beads and rocks and wool roving and wool locks. And I'm looking up here to see what else I've got. And I just took off a whole bunch of stuff off the shelves so that I could have room to put my wool fabric. And then it's got me thinking about where I'm spending my time. I was going to a lot of coaching meetings and I realized it was taking me down a different path that was really good for me for like 4 years. And I learned an awful lot of stuff about showing up on camera, being my authentic self, telling the truth about who I was and where I was going. But suddenly I wanted to do a little bit more. And I'm sitting here by the open windows. You're going to hear the cars going by because this is real life. And if I put it off to do something when the timing is perfect, it's not going to happen. So I looked around for some other groups that I could join because I learned a lot over 4 years working with this one group. And I thought, you know, when I got invited to that exhibition in New York, one of the things that the gallery owner said to me is that you may find that you have to present yourself differently to the world, present your art differently to the world. So I went looking for another group that would help me understand more about what it might be to work with a gallery, to do more exhibitions, to submit to shows. And you know what I discovered, besides another group, which I did join, and I'm absolutely loving the Visionary Art Collective, and I will put the link to that group down in the description below. And what I discovered is that I got that excitement back that I had when I was first learning about how to write and submit books. I got super excited to learn about galleries and how to present my website maybe just a little bit differently, just a few little tweaks, and just kind of thinking about myself as an artist differently rather than being somebody who did mass productions, somebody who could really work on leveling up their craft. And so, you know, with me, it all snowballs because I never start from a completely blank slate. You know, so there's the studio that's in utter chaos right now as I'm pulling things out to try and sell and moving them out to the garage. And we were thinking we were going to have the garage or have the roof redone on the house this year, but it looks like that's getting postponed until spring, which is actually a good thing because now we have time to get rid of more stuff that's in the garage. We have a new dog in our life who is absolutely wonderful, but different, you know? And so all these things that are happening that are taking up more time. And I realized this morning, I still have too much on my plate. I'm still scattering. And it's not that I've made gobs and gobs of commitments. That's not what it is. I'm doing it to myself. And so I'm really decided that my goal for the next 9 months is just to finish new work and to level up my art, because what I really want to do is apply to our local open studios which I think the application is next March, and I need to have, shoot, I forgot whether it was 7. I think I have to have 7 pieces done, and I want to have 7 new pieces done because I'm trying to work bigger. I still enjoy working small, but I'm planning bigger things, and I'm setting some things up in the studio to do that. And if something shows up that I can apply, you know, as far as a show goes or an exhibition, I may still think about it. But I'm really trying to focus myself more on just finishing and elevating. And it doesn't mean that I don't want to sell, because of course you always want to sell your art, and the shop is always going to be open. But I have to figure out how I can make that mental shift. And I think that means just kind of doing more playtime, looking at my materials and seeing which ones are calling to me. I have kind of a design wall thing now, and it's, let's see, what is it? It's 4 by 3. So it's 3 feet across, and it's divided in 2 halves. So I can do 2 by 4 or 2 by 3 pieces on there. And that's big. 2 by 3 compared to 12 inches that I've been working. So that's a lot of French knots. I figured if one hoop is a little bit bigger than the thing of my hand, I have to do 15 of those if I'm working like that. I'll probably work on a larger hoop, but mentally that's where I'm starting to think about that and think about, you know, is it going to be just rolling hills that go on the wall? Is there going to be a path that goes through that? Could I put a little fence, my mushroom, you know? So all that kind of stuff. Again, this is a Susan Ramble. And the takeaway that I want to share with you guys is a couple things. One, I have always been somebody who wants to do all the things. I want to try all the things. I want to play with all the things. I want to buy all the things. And I've indulged a lot. And there's nothing wrong with that. So if you're somebody that wants to do all the things, go ahead. Do all the things. Give it a try. Play around with the materials available to you, classes that interest you. Give them all a try until you find that one thing that just really gets your heart racing faster, that makes you want to go to work every day. I have that enthusiasm now, just like I did when I was first starting to submit to publishers many, many years ago. It's like, oh, I have an idea. I want to see if I can implement this. I want to make you want to step into a wildscape. So play with all those things. And then when you find that one thing that really lights you up, don't beat yourself up because you did all the things first, because you had to do all the things to get to the one thing that really lights you up. And so I'm trying to give myself grace, and I hope you give yourself grace too with your creativity, because you know, if you've watched anything of mine before, the thing that I believe most of all is that you have to approach your art, whether it's art you're going to sell or something that you're making for yourself, you have to approach it with the joy in your heart, because that's going to translate to joy in the project, and everybody's going to be able to tell. They really are. Trust me on this, because I have made art that doesn't go anywhere, and it doesn't go anywhere because I'm not in it. There's not a piece of me in it. But when you look at one of my wildscapes, you know that's something that Susan has lived through. That is something that Susan has poured her heart into. That's something that reminds Susan when she steps outside into her garden, she looks up at those towering redwoods, she sees the plants growing all around, hears the birds, watches the bees and the butterflies, and her heart is in the work. You can tell that. I am sure of it when you look at my work. And that's what I want you to feel when you look at your work too. Do all the things. Go ahead. Try it all. And then when you find that thing that just lights that fire, then just keep fanning that flame, because that, I think, is where you're going to find the most joy. At least that's what works for me.